Now, for more on this, we're being joined by Alon Burstein from California as a visiting assistant professor of political science at University of California and a fellow at Israel Institute. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast.
Thank you for having me.
Now, to begin with, how do you assess the situation in Israel and also Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to halt the reform bill?
I think the Prime Minister realized that he had no choice. There have sort of been, these protests have been growing over the last 3 months, and there's always been this threat that the economy can actually come to a halt, or that the military people will stop showing up for reserve duty. And after firing Yoav Gallant in a move that he thought would just go over smoothly, the situation really got out of control really fast. The General Federation of Workers declared a general strike. A bunch of city council leaders decided they were going on hunger strike. Universities shut down. The airport shut down. And he really had no choice in the matter other than to find a way to at least halt the situation in order to try to calm things down. So I agree with what some of the protesters were saying in the segment you just showed. This is an attempt to stall in order to possibly come back stronger. But he really was pushed into a corner. He did not want to do this, but he had no choice at this time.
Right, absolutely. In fact, I was just going to come to that they do say that there is no victory at all, and this is just him buying more time for himself to come back stronger. How likely do you think that is, and what can we expect going forward?
A lot really depends on his coalition partners. So the Likud is allied with two very hawkish right-wing parties and two ultra-Orthodox Jewish parties. Every one of these sort of camps has an interest in restraining the Supreme Court and pushing this reform forward. And both of these camps are continuously pushing Netanyahu into a corner, saying, if you do not push this forward, if you do not go even against what might be your better judgment for the economy or for the military, we are simply going to tear the government apart. So I think Netanyahu would like to possibly slow things down, pass the reforms that are important to him. There are specific aspects of this judicial overhaul, and maybe negotiate the rest. But other elements within his government are really going to push him very strongly to not slow down, to use this time just in order to try to reformulate the bills and come back stronger. And I think it's going to be up to him to try to balance out, on the one hand, that pressure within his government, on the other hand, trying very much to not, again, push the system into a spiral like we saw happen this past weekend, which I think very much surprised him.
Absolutely. Now, this has, of course, highlighted the cracks within the coalition as well. At this point, how do you think the coalition is placed?
So everyone in the coalition is very, very closely allied on the one hand. On the other hand, they also see that this is their moment sort of to strike. This is the strongest that his coalition partners have ever been. The ultra-Orthodox parties have never been in such a strong position to demand pushing forth sort of constitutional arrangements in order to benefit their constituency. And the more hawkish right-wing elements within the government are really trying to use this opportunity to restrain the Supreme Court in order to try to push forth their desired legislation in order to deepen the hold of settlements in the West Bank, in order to possibly lift all restraints that the military has in dealing with violence from the Palestinians. So everyone is really, on the one hand, closely allied within the coalition. On the other hand, they sense that if they don't get what they want now, they may not get another opportunity. So they're really all pushing more and more. And we saw this when Netanyahu wanted to actually announce the halt in the reform already in the morning, but it took another 8 hours of negotiating with the different coalition partners, making backroom deals and promising each one of them something in order to make sure they would not tear the government apart if he just halted the situation. So again, it's this constant push and pull. Netanyahu is very good at negotiating, usually, in politics, but he's really cornered from all sides at the present time.
All right. Well, Professor Burstein, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast with your insights on this.
Thank you very much.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.